never, ever sit with a non-Orthodox rabbi. While not accepting the position of the conservative and reform movements on halakha, because you must understand, when I talk about pluralism, that doesn't mean that I am one and that I am in agreement with my conservative and reform colleagues on every issue. I disagree with them on many issues, and I'm in very good company. I disagree with them, and they disagree with me. I have disagreements with my dear friend Rabbi Barry Dov Katz. I have disagreements, and he disagrees with me. But you can be sure that when they're going to celebrate his rabbinate over many years in a couple of weeks, that I'm going to join in that celebration. And it's my great honor, Shabbat after Tefillah, to join in a panel discussion with others to celebrate Rabbi Barry Dov and to interact with them. In modern Orthodoxy, while not accepting the position of conservative and the reform movements on halakha, we've adopted the position of Rabbi Samuel Belkin, the late president of Yeshiva University, who insisted that there are many areas in his time, Israel and Soviet Jewry, where our agendas overlap. Let's take a look at number 7. Let's read number 7. Stanley, some say
that the main goal of the
Synagogue Council of America was an umbrella group of Orthodox, conservative, and Reform rabbis. The Orthodox were virtually only from the modern Orthodox community. So some say that the main goal of the Synagogue Council, Stanley, is
to help in creating a spirit of unity in the American Jewish community. Here I disagree. In the things in which we differ, we have no unity, nor should it be expected of us, particularly of Jews of Orthodox orientation. In the things which we fully agree upon, and which all of us are deeply concerned, we are the most united people in the world. In Russian Jewry is denied the religious liberty to bake matzahs for Pesach. If the borders of the state of Israel are threatened, if an anti-Semitic movement generates in any part of the world, all Jews are united.
Now, that was 1967. Looking back, that was a courageous position. I was a student at Yeshiva University, and he was roundly condemned, Dr. Belkin was, for appearing. This was some anniversary of the Synagogue Council of America, and the students, and believe it or not, I may have been one of those students. I was in a more yeshiva kind of world. I think I, in those days, may have opposed him. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I don't even want to look at some of my records. But when I look back, this is like a minimalist position. Rabbi Aaron Lichtenstein, who is Rabbi Soloveitchik's of blessed memory's son-in-law, Yibadeh L'chaim, he takes it a step further. That it's not only that we can connect on issues that unite us, but he starts talking about contributions that conservative and reform can make to the larger Jewish scene. Those on the Orthodox right contend that we're better off without the conservative and reform movements. And yet, let's listen closely to the words of the great Rabbi Aaron Lichtenstein, one of the great Torah giants of our generation, in a Tradition magazine symposium that dealt with the non-Orthodox movement. Look what he says, and here I am in number 8. Anybody want to read? Charles, please read. Number 8. This is Rabbi Lichtenstein.
Nor do I share the belief that some feel over the prospective demise of the competition. Surely we have many sharp differences with the conservative and reform movements, and these should not be glossed over or blurred. However, we also share many values with them, and this too should not weaken us in others.
Now, and these two should not be obscured. Now, you have to understand, he's talking now values. He's not talking only, as Dr. Belkin did, about unity on Soviet Jewry and Israel. He's now talking values. That is taking it a step further. Go on,
Their disappearance might strengthen us in some respects, but would unquestionably weaken us in others. Can anyone responsibly state that it is better for a marginal Jew in Dallas or in Dubuque to lose his religious identity altogether than drive to his temple?
now this is serious stuff. This ain't Avi Weiss. This is Rabbi Aaron Lichtenstein. And there may be, I know that there are people here very much involved with the conservative and reform movement, and some of this phraseology may be very, very disturbing. But it must be understood in context where and who is proclaiming these words. He is saying that there is value in the conservative and reform movement. And I would add, not only should Orthodox leaders recognize that the other side, conservative and reform, they are not our enemies. Here, I want to say and add the following. But the reform and conservative leaders should understand this as well. They should understand that Orthodoxy is not our enemy. As the leader of Yeshivat Chovevei Torah, by this June we will have placed 75 rabbis around the country, close to 30 in synagogues, 15 on campuses, 20 in leading schools. I'm very proud of our graduates. Very, very proud of them. I can tell you the number of times that we've gone into situations where there is an anti-Orthodox bias. That our students have trouble being placed on certain universities because of this anti-Orthodox bias. Despite the fact, and this is sort of like a father gloating, that we now have students from Harvard to Brandeis to Princeton to Berkeley to UCLA to Oxford, you name it, Vanderbilt, Northwestern, Washington University. It's like a who's who. These are Orthodox rabbis, but they are really so open and pluralistic. Really. Very, very much so. Our energy should not be expended on castigating other movements, but rather on impacting the majority of American Jews who are unaffiliated and whose greater involvement in Judaism must be our central focus. Now, in the past many years, I've taken this much further. I have come to see and recognize that there are so many opportunities for the movements to learn from each other. I am very grateful to the non-Orthodox conservative and reform movements for having been a profound influence on my life. A profound influence on my life. And I believe that if today it is in the mainstream of modern Orthodoxy to care about universalistic tikkun olam agendas, I believe that that comes from conservative and reform. And by the way, the flip side is true as well. Reform and conservative movements, I think that their greater sensitivity to day school education and increased emphasis on learning Torah and ritual in Jewish life has much to do with Orthodox influence. That, for me, is what pluralism means. Pluralism doesn't mean we agree on everything. Pluralism means, I actually once wrote out in an article, I wrote out what I think should be rules of dissent. A, the movement should not be speaking negatively about each other. B, every movement should recognize that we have no monopoly on passionately loving the Jewish people. In my younger years at the rabbinate, I really thought the only one who passionately loves the Jewish people in the land of Israel were Orthodox. That's not true. And in fact, pluralism means that there's a recognition that we have much to learn from each other. I think that's true not only in terms of the relationship between conservative and reform on the one hand, and the Orthodox on the other. I think that's true even in terms of the relationship between the modern Orthodox and the Orthodox faith. I stand before you and tell you as a modern Orthodox rabbi that I have gleaned and gained so much from the Orthodox faith. I think the larger modern Orthodox community has gained an enormous amount. We have come to understand that modern Orthodoxy is not a diet light cola. It's not Orthodox light. We've come to understand that modern Orthodoxy means we've got to be involved with prayer, with communal prayer. Attending public services, minyan, is very